You're listening to Sox in the Basement, a production of the Broadcast Basement Limited, where every show is 30 minutes of good and comes from a basement bar on the south side of Chicago. Pull up a stool, pour a cold one, and join us right now for Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at soxinthebasement.com.
And I am not bellied up to the 9-foot homemade oak bar because Chris isn't here. It's just me. It's just Ed. But it is still Sox in the Basement. It is still 30 minutes of White Sox talk. For fans, by fans. Brought to you by Cork and Kerry. Of course, 2 locations for Cork and Kerry. The fabulous award-winning menu of burgers and ballpark favorites at Cork and Kerry at the Park, 33rd and Princeton, in the shadow of the ballpark. Your home base for White Sox pregame, postgame, and viewing parties. We were out there on opening day. It was fantastic. It was packed. It was wonderful. And if you're looking for something a little more chill, the weather's getting a little bit better, don't forget Cork and Kerry Beverly at 10614 Southwestern Avenue. Traditional Irish bar in the Beverly neighborhood. Great outdoor patio and bar. They got event rooms. So, hey, check them out, corkandkerry.com. See more about both locations and book your next event right then and there. So, wow. Okay, so we're done with the Astros. We get the split. The Giants come in, and oh boy, you get that opening day rout where Michael Kopech looks terrible, back-to-back home runs. You get the last game of the series, they get absolutely obliterated, although, to be fair, 4 runs being charged to Hanser Alberto is probably, it makes the bottom line look a little bit worse than it was. It could have been a 12-6 game very easily. But still, there's a lot of reason to be negative right now, right? We're looking at this and we're going, their pitching is bad. Michael Kopech and Lance Lynn get lit up, even though Lynn looked good when he faced the Astros. So I'm not really worried about Kopech and Lynn, right? Because Michael Kopech, he'll be fine. He will have better starts. He had a bad day. Even warming up, watching him on the home opener. I had a good vantage point. I was in the club seats with Chris. We're looking down as he's warming up, and we're looking at his body language. We're like, gee, that's not a guy who feels it today, okay? And that's what Kopech was. He just didn't have it on the home opener. And Lance Lynn didn't have it. As you're listening to this on Friday, he didn't have it on Thursday. The bullpen is exactly what we thought they were, okay? There's no reason to be negative about this because it's not new news. We knew going into the season the bullpen was going to be a little bit of a mess. It was going to take some sorting out. Pedro was going to have to figure out how to use guys. And we saw him use Ronaldo Lopez as a closer to mixed effect. We saw him use Ronaldo Lopez in a key high-leverage situation, however, where he was not closing the game, and it worked out very well, okay? So there's a lot to be worked out yet, but it's not something that you panic about. You don't panic about Jose Ruiz. You know Jose Ruiz isn't any good, but you don't panic about him. So Sox fans already feeling the negativity boiling up. There's some good here, okay? There is some real good stuff here, and there's some positives that you can take away from the start of the season. Let's start with the obvious one. The fact that Liam Hendriks has rang the victory bell at his doctor's office and he has closed out cancer. Chemo treatments are done, which means he can now physically rebuild. He can get back to baseball activities. He can come back sooner than we ever anticipated is a wonderful, wonderful thing for the bullpen. And the bullpen, again, it's a mess. There's guys to be sorted out. We don't know what everybody is or what they're going to be. We are aware that Ronaldo Lopez and Aaron Bummer are probably the 2 best relievers on the team, but they get slotted differently when we know that Aaron Bummer and Ronaldo Lopez are probably the 2 best relievers on the team, and they get slotted better when Liam Hendriks comes back, right? Now they are setup guys. We know that Pedro's tried to lean on Kendall Graveman in the early going. We know that he hasn't really used guys in the way he hopes to be able to use them either. We've seen Jake Diekman in both some high leverage and some very low leverage situations. We have seen Joe Kelly mostly in the low leverage type of a situation. We've seen him try and use Gregory Santos. We've seen him playing with guys. But when Liam comes back, all of a sudden he's got more options, okay? So this is a positive change, and this is a positive thing that we were not expecting as White Sox fans, and we should be cheering for it, okay? The other aspects that are really positive here are how the team is fighting. and they are fighting, okay? When I'm watching on the home opener and there's a dust-up at first base between Andrew Vaughn and Anthony DeSclafani, who is the starting pitcher for the Giants, and it comes out later that it's just Vaughn is chirping at DeSclafani because on a 3-0 count, he threw him a slider, and that's why he had that ugly-looking grounder to first. That's Andrew Vaughn voicing some frustration. That's Andrew Vaughn sitting there kind of going, hey, Disco, this is not, what are you doing? It's kind of a Bush League move, throwing me a slider on 3-0. Vaughn says some not nice things. DeSclafani says something back. Okay, guys have words. There's fight there, though. Okay, Andrew Vaughn is frustrated. He's venting it. And look, I don't know that he's right. I think DeSclafani can throw whatever he wants on 3-0. That's not a fight I don't know that we necessarily need to be making as the White Sox or as White Sox fans, that we need to die on that hill. But look, the fact is that Vaughn didn't just roll over. The team didn't really roll over. He's still chirping at the other team about stuff. Same thing when Tim Anderson gets ejected. He gets booted by the ump because he's chirping at the ump about not giving him his timeout. But Logan Webb, again, starting pitcher for the Giants, comes out later and says, I don't think TA should have been ejected. He's talking to me, right? He's not talking to the ump. He's talking to me. And what he's saying is that Webb was Bush League because when the ump didn't give Tim Anderson his timeout, Webb quick pitched him because Webb is standing there waiting. He's ready to go, and Anderson's got to hurry up and get engaged, and he's not quite ready, and Webb can recognize that. Well, look, Logan Webb is free to do whatever he wants. He's got to respect the pitch clock too. And he didn't quick pitch him because the ump didn't call it. And that would have been something that would have been a call that the ump could have made. Webb's not necessarily in the wrong as far as the rules are concerned, but Tim Anderson is fighting back. And last year, this team did not do that. Last year, what this team did was it rolled over. So the other piece of negativity that comes out of this, though, is Eloy Jimenez is hurt. He's pulled a hamstring. And in other news, grass is green, the sky is blue. Day starts in the morning and ends when night comes at night. There's all sorts of things that are going to happen in this world that we should just accept as being fact. And Eloy Jimenez hurting himself is just fact at this point. But look, it's April. It is the first week of the season. It's a little ridiculous that he's already on the injured list, but at the same time, I want the White Sox to be cautious with this guy. If he feels a tweak, let him rest. Sit him down. Open up the roster spot, bring up Jake Berger. That's exactly what you need to do. What we don't need is a guy playing through it, okay? I was reading about Trevor Larnach of the Twins, who last year felt a tweak in his groin, played through it, ended up having massive abdominal surgery, cost him his entire season, absolutely ruined him, and all it was he didn't sit down when he needed to. Eloy's a proud guy. Eloy is not going to sit down. He doesn't want to not play the field. He wants to be out there in the outfield. He doesn't want to be a DH. The team needs to handle him firmly, and I'm glad he's on the IL. I'm not glad that his hamstring's hurt. I'm not glad that this is another injury conversation we're having about him, but I am happy that he is being treated with kid gloves. I want this to happen now. I don't want this to happen in August or September, but right now, again, I'm not worried about it. It is something that we knew was going to happen at some point. I'm just happy it happened at the first week because we're just hopefully getting it out of the way and we can focus on other things like Jose Ruiz. And how long until he gets replaced by somebody pretty please, Rick? Well, if you need to replace something like your exterior windows, doors, patio doors, and storm doors, you could do no better than going to Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest. There are no high-pressure sales. Not in your kitchen, in their showroom with full examples, glass designs on display. They're not coming to you with just a few things. You get to see everything that they have available. Forget pictures in a book. See it in person, right up close. Owners in showroom and at the site. All Window and Door Superstore installers. They don't farm out the work. Who you work with in the showroom is who you work with at your house. 40 years in Oak Forest since 1985. All major brands, custom made, no stock items. Everything's a perfect fit. Go and visit them. 1/2 block east of 159th and Ridgeland at 6280 159th Street. That's windowdooroakforest.com. So Sox in the Basement is part of the Broadcast Basement On-Demand Radio Network. And what does that mean for you? Well, that means that we are part of a team. And as part of a team, sometimes we get the advantage of our teammates covering the teams that the White Sox are playing. So the White Sox get a nice little reprieve this weekend by going out to Pittsburgh and taking on the Pirates. And I say it's a nice little reprieve because the Astros are the reigning world champs. The Giants are a veteran team that's going to try and compete in one of the most stacked divisions in baseball in the NL West. But the Pirates are the Pittsburgh Pirates. They're in a rebuild. And joining us now from Bucs in the Basement is our teammate out in Pittsburgh, Mr. Craig Toth. Brought to you by the Village of Lamont. If you want to experience a downtown with real history, great eats and drinks, and green spaces filled with adventure, visit the Village of Lamont. Shop, dine, drink, explore. Visit lamontdowntown.com for all the latest info as to what's going on down there and what you can do. So, Craig, let's talk a little bit about what the Pirates bring to their series with the White Sox. How are the Pirates doing? Because I know they're kind of in a perpetual rebuild. At least that's the way it feels as an outsider.
So, first off, thank you for having me on. Second, I've never been brought to by a village to anywhere, so I'm pretty excited about that. So I'm brought by the Village of Lamont. I got to get out there.
It takes a village. It takes a village to bring people into us. So
yeah, and the other part is that I mean we already swept one Sox team, so I think that we should just keep that going and then sweep another Sox team coming up here this weekend. I mean, just make it a Sox sweep opening week here in baseball.
So you're just basically saying like a very busy, harried mom with a bunch of kids just start sweeping socks until you don't see them anymore.
Yeah, especially the mismatched ones. If we could do that with the mismatched socks, we'll just sweep that away too. Sorry, Ed. Got to take a little crack at you there, but I do read that.
Nice bringing my blog into it. So, yeah, how did now the Red Sox are also they're not in a position this year where they were going to necessarily contend, but the Pirates came out and looked really pretty good against them. So what are you guys excited about out there?
Well, the big thing right now is if we can get starting pitching going. When I did the show with Chris just the other day, we were talking about getting Mitch Keller going, and Mitch Keller went 7 strong innings yesterday against the Red Sox, but you won't see him this weekend as it comes through the rotation. It looks like you'll probably see Rich Hill, probably your old friend in Vince Velasquez, and then probably, I'm thinking maybe like a Johan Oviedo with there being no JT Brubaker. So, you're going to see an old man, a guy that you guys had put in the starting rotation, dropped down to the bullpen, and were looking to do the exact same thing. And then Johan Oviedo, who got absolutely destroyed and lit up by the Red Sox in the first inning of the series, which was really the only runs that we gave up in that series, outside of, Mitch Keller giving up one, Roansy Contreras just basically torching the Red Sox. So you guys have a good shot here because none of those guys have pitched very well so far this season.
So that's really the Achilles heels for the Pirates is you have a starting rotation that seems to be Mitch Keller and a bunch of patchwork.
So, that's going to be the story is if you can get the starters going, consistently 5-6 innings, saving that bullpen, then it might be, some good stuff and keeping the offense, led by Brian Reynolds at this moment, to be, I don't know, a little bit more consistent because we've had consistency and inconsistency from the offense. We seem to explode certain games, and then other games, the Reds stifle us for like one run, 2 games in a row. So there's a lot to be done here. A lot of young guys, but we're also filling in with some veterans. Names that people will notice. We're not the hodgepodge of nothingness that Dennis Eckersley called us last year. We do have a Carlos Santana. We do have Andrew McCutchen back, G-Man Choi, Connor Joe, Austin Hedges once his concussion is dealt with because he got a concussion in the first series. We do have some names. A Rich Hill that I mentioned. Everybody knows Rich Hill. He's been around for 18 years. If you've watched baseball any time in the past 18 years, you know who Rich Hill is.
Rich Hill's only been around for 18 years. I feel like it's longer. I feel like Rich Hill made an appearance in the 1980 World Series for the Dodgers or something like that. He seems to be ageless at this point.
Yeah, he definitely is. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff you guys are going to be watching. If we can get Brian Hayes back on track, hopefully he's going to show good defense. You're going to see 6'7", shortstop, the unicorn in O'Neal Cruz. G1 Bay has become in this first week one of the surprise players. Everybody knew that he had it in him to be one of those more small contact, small ball guys, but he put one over the monster, an Oppo Taco. So it should be a very interesting series to watch. There's going to be some names that White Sox fans notice, but there's going to be some new ones that you're going to have to get adjusted to.
So with the White Sox rebuild, not a rebuild that it was, you look at the White Sox farm system right now and it's ranked 26th. Pirates are ranked 8th. The other thing that was frustrating for White Sox fans was that we were told the money would be spent when the window opened, right? When the youth came through, Rick was going to be able to spend money and he was going to be able to do this. And now we've got flags flying on the home opener on the parking lot with Jerry Reinsdorf with a clown nose, and it says "Sell the Team Jerry." Apparently available at Amazon.com. You can buy a "Sell the Team Jerry" flag. So Sox fans have had it with Jerry Reinsdorf and feel like he nickels and dimes. But I know that's nothing in comparison to what you guys have with Bob Nutting.
Well, I mean, before we jumped on here, we were making the comparison, and I was thinking, God, Pirates fans would actually love to have Jerry Reinsdorf as an owner. Not that he spends to the level that he probably could, but he spends to a higher level than Bob Nutting. And you look at what Pirates fans want. We want him to sign Reynolds to an extension. Not sure if that's going to happen yet when this drops. Hopefully, opening day, the home opener tomorrow in Pittsburgh, they can announce that beforehand before we play the White Sox. That would be amazing. But other than that, I mean, we signed Brian Hayes to an extension. And we look at, the White Sox. Ink Yohan Moncada to a deal. Ink Luis Robert to a deal. Ink Eloy Menez to a deal. Aaron Bummer to a little bit of an extension. Giving out a little bit of that money is what, we did during our previous rebuild when we signed McCutchen, Marte, Polanco. And I think that people want to see that happen. And at that point in time, the salaries, it will naturally go, everything will naturally go up. So our payroll will naturally go up with that. With the players reaching arbitration, a Mitch Keller, a JT Brubaker, guys that, take that step next season, it will happen. But I don't think we'll ever get to the White Sox level of spending. So at that point in time, is it more about, the White Sox not spending smart in some areas, giving that extension to a Luria Garcia?
Yeah, well, yeah. I think we got to make a vow never to say Larry Garcia on this show again. Just get his name out of our mouth, but that's been an issue with the White Sox, is that Jerry will spend, but the spending has seemed to have been poorly done. So now, does he spend on the stadium and on the fan experience? Because that's the other thorn in White Sox fans' sides, is that we feel like the team kind of cuts corners when it comes to what happens at the ballpark. They talk a good game, but do you guys have that problem with your park too, where you feel like, hey, the nickel and diming isn't just on the payroll, it's everywhere. It's spread across.
Well, people do have a problem with our president, Travis Williams. Travis Williams, a lot of people may not, unless you're a hockey fan, you wouldn't know that he was, in that same position with the Pittsburgh Penguins for a number of years, got us a new arena, got a job with, I believe it was the New York Islanders, to be able to spend, but his thing has always been the fan experience. He is a business operations guy. Ben Cherington is a baseball operations guy. Yes, as the business operations guy, he does have some oversight as to what the spending will be, but you can't really complain about what they've done with the ballpark. He negotiated with the Sports Authority to get us a much needed update to our scoreboard. I mean, our scoreboard was the same scoreboard that they put in when the stadium opened in 2001. Got us this brand new, HD scoreboard. Has put in, people always said, we want to watch the players at the bullpen, and all the security would shuffle them along. Well, what did they do? They put seats in there so people can actually sit, and they have a little area they can put their drink at and stuff and watch the bullpen. Built new bars. They have upgraded, the food. They've upgraded, everything that they possibly can. So the baseball experience, other than on the field, has actually been, since we got rid of Huntington, brought in Charrington, brought in Travis Williams, got rid of Frank Coonley, our president, has been a better thing. Now, of course, Travis Williams, when they actually interviewed him, just basically stuck his foot in his mouth, saying that, when people are going home, they're going to say, I want to go back again, even if my team lost. And people, rightfully so, lit him up for that. I mean, you
because that seems to be pretty common.
Yeah, I mean, you can't everything he said before that, everything he's done before that, he's done well on the business side of things.
Sox in the Basement listeners, do the hard work. And if you're a hard-working man or woman on the South Side, you need to be outfitted properly. And that's why you should visit Red Wing Shoes in Evergreen Park, New Lenox, and Geneva. A work boots specialty store that carries sizes from 6 to 16 and feet as wide as 4E. A 115-year-old company that came out of Red Wing, Minnesota. And one of its largest stores in the entire Midwest is in Evergreen Park, Illinois, ever since 1976. When you're on your feet, the footwear is everything. So why not get an expert fitting? They warranty, repair, and offer free conditioning with laces. And they also carry Carhartt work clothing as well. Located at 3347 West 95th Street in Evergreen Park, Illinois, at 208 East Maple Street on Route 30 in New Lenox, or at 1749 South Randall Road in Geneva. Visit them today. You work hard. You've earned it. Red Wing Shoes.
From Bucs in the Basement, Craig Toth. Maybe we should just ditch Chris and you and I can do like Mets in the Basement, and we'll just spend Steve Cohen's money.
That's what I was telling Chris. I'm like, if we have to talk about Brian Reynolds one more time, then I'm just going to pick a different team for that day and just do something else. I mean, Mets in the Basement would be fun. Although I'm wondering if they spend all their money well, because they spend it on a bunch of old guys like me that could probably break down halfway through the season.
Oh yeah, I've got probably the same weird armpit muscle sprain that Justin Verlander has, except I did it drinking beer instead of throwing pitches.
Yeah, you did it at the 9-foot homemade oak bar. You didn't do it throwing fastballs.
No, and my fastball at this point, I think I might be able to give Rich Hill a run for his money. We'll see when he comes to town. So
yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. Anybody that doesn't know, my wife is a diehard White Sox fan, so you guys will be proud and happy to know. And she said she's not even going, since the Pirates are supposedly having a blackout, since they're bringing back A.J. Burnett and Russell Martin for the first pitch. Andrew McCutchen's back. Neil Walker and the Fort McHenry are, two of our announcers. That she is going old school blue, red, and White Sox. So look for her on the broadcast. We should be somewhere in center field. And she's going to be cheering for the White Sox.
All right, so if you're watching the Sox and the Pirates this weekend, and you see somebody out in the center field seats that is wearing an 83 uniform, tune into Bucs in the Basement. You can listen to her husband and Chris talk about the Pirates. Greg, I don't know if we have to have you back next week because the White Sox and Pirates won't be playing each other, but I suppose if you can do a good Chris Lanuti impression, we can have you on, and he can just stay out on the beach where he's at.
I just got to keep laughing like he laughs. I got to work on that.
It's a distinct laugh.
It is very distinct.
And it is that time for the Sox Nerd, Dave Marin, to make his weekly appearance for us. Dave, what do you got for us today?
Ed, I'm making a change to the lineup card and extending our preview of the 2023 White Sox by one session to take a look at rookie manager Pedro Grifol. Not to brag, but Grifol has been on my radar for about 4 years. After the 2019 season, I asked a longtime baseball executive for under-the-radar managerial candidates, and Grifal's name came up immediately. Flash forward to 2023, and he's the Sox bench coach. It was an intriguing hire, not only because Grifal is a relative unknown, but because he was the first manager hired from outside the Sox family since Gene Lamont came on board in 1992. And while you wouldn't think of Grifal as a wonderkind at age 52, he did succeed 77-year-old Tony La Russa, and that 25-year decrease in age from one skipper to the next is the largest in Sox history. Maybe the most interesting thing about Grifal's background was that he managed the 2005 Sox. That is the 2005 Everett Aqua Sox, a Class A affiliate of the Seattle Mariners. Grifal's Sox career got off to a nice start with a 3-2 win over reigning World Series champion Houston in the opener. Prior to Pedro, the last full-time Sox manager to win his debut was Jerry Manuel in 1997. In downing Houston, Grifal became the third manager to win his debut against the defending World Series champions, and the first to do that since the Yankees' Lou Piniella inaugurated his career with a win over Kansas City in 1986. In addition, Grifal was the first manager to succeed in his debut on the defending champs' home turf since 1915, when the Phillies' Pat Moran defeated the Boston Braves. Now, bad news. Grifal was just the seventh Sox manager to drop his home debut in a home opener. Among those who've suffered this indignity were Bob Lemon, Jeff Torborg, and Rich Renteria. The other 16 Sox managers whose home debut was in a home opener were victorious. And this one's tough, Ed. Grifal and the Sox absorbed the worst loss in a home opener, 9 runs on Monday, since the team took a 16-0 beating at the hands of the Tigers in the first game in the current park. And my zinger is not about Pedro, but one of his coaches. Best I can tell, bench coach Charlie Montoya is really an outlier over the last 75 years or so of Sox history. Discounting interims or fill-ins, Montoya, who guided the Blue Jays from 2019 to 2022, is just the third former manager to serve as a coach for the Sox. The others are Bobby Winkles, who joined the Sox staff after stints in California and Oakland, and Doug Rader, who was the Sox coach twice, sandwiched around jobs in Texas and California. So there it is, Ed. Probably more than you wanted to know about Pedro.
But it's all good stuff to know. And now everybody can go out and win bar bets about the new Sox manager.
That's my goal. You know that.
Well, thank you very much, Dave. And we look forward to what you got for us next week.
Thank you.
The Sox Nerd, Dave Marin, brought to you by Parenti and Norm. If you've been injured at work or out there in the public, you need a team that does what it takes to fight for your rights. Law offices of Parenti and Norm has the experience, dedication, and proven results to get you what you deserve. Over $400 million recovered for their clients and their loved ones. If you need a free case evaluation, if you've been injured, call or text them today at 312-641-5926. That's 312-641-5926, or visit pninjurylaw.com. So we'll be back with Chris next week. He'll be on a beach from Florida, but that's okay. We'll have hopefully seen the White Sox do some damage against the Pirates team that doesn't spend like Jerry Reinsdorf spends, so I guess we got that. Thanks, of course, to Craig Toth from Bucs in the Basement. Thanks, of course, to the Sox Nerd, Dave Marin. And, hey, let's not panic, folks. It's early yet, and we still know that Eloy Jimenez will always get hurt. Jose Ruiz will always be our least favorite reliever. And if nothing else, if there's nothing else to cling on to for this early part of the season, it's that there's always a chance that Tim Anderson will get ejected for yelling at a pitcher. So, see, we can be positive. We've learned some things. This is good. This is good. This is Sox in the Basement.
Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement.
Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always on soxinthebasement.com.